paranormal, UFOs, monsters, mysteries. You're listening to Talking Weird. And now, from a cabin deep in the Northwoods, your hosts, Dr. Dean Bertram and Jenn Durrell.
Well, hello, baby.
Hey, baby.
I should probably move a little. This was quite the race tonight. We had advertised that we had Kerry Pryor on, and he's actually. I'm going to move over a little so Jen is on camera, and Kerry is currently in the screening of the Revenant. So we couldn't have him on. So we thought, rather than just pull the show, we would sit here because we never do it in person. We're always remote. I'm always in my cabin in the North Woods. And Jen is always in Missouri, but here we are in Eau Claire at Midwest WeirdFest.
Yes, but you can't see it.
It's all good, but it's been a great festival so far. We're having a great weekend. We're doing the retrospective screening of the Revenant at the moment, but I'm guessing most of you aren't here, so we're probably not going to talk that much about the fest. I thought it'd be fun. People often comment, and we never end up answering anybody's questions because we're normally in the middle of an interview. So if anybody wanted to comment tonight and actually engage with us, we'll talk to you and we'll answer some of your questions. We just thought that might be fun, and we're going to have Kerry back in a couple of weeks when things aren't quite so crazy festival busy, and we have our children here with us this weekend as well, which has made it fun, but it's always a little bit more hectic when there's a 5-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 13-year-old. So yeah, apologies if you're wanting to see Kerry Pryor. He will be back on the show. He's enjoying his screening of the Revenant at the moment and the Micon downtown. So yeah, and how do people, if they want to talk to us, they have to go to StreamYard?
Yeah, I have the little banner going.
Oh, okay. There's a banner going on the bottom too. Now,
but I don't see any comments. So.
Well, they don't comment yet. We could talk. We found out only this weekend, which was fascinating. The Micon downtown, where we have the festival, I'd heard that they did. I've heard that they actually do that. I wonder what the sound's like here too. Hopefully you can hear us. Anything. We didn't test anything. We raced from the cinema to here. Hopefully you can hear us okay. But the Micon downtown, it's a beautiful old cinema, which I think dates back to the 30s or something. I knew they'd done some ghost tours there. And we were talking to the owner and two of the staff the other night. And it's like a genuinely haunted location. In fact, if we weren't here with the kids, we probably would have shot a little mini doco this weekend. Who they were saying about a white lady who's was the white lady in the basement?
Yeah, and then someone
there's
died
a boy
or overdosed.
Somebody overdosed there. There's children they hear late at night. I was in the basement tonight pulling out a banner for the festival, and I was with one of the managers, and she was like, "Yeah, this is sometimes you hear children laughing down here."
Yeah,
so,
and there used to be a funeral home too.
There was a funeral home next door because downtown Eau Claire, it's a pretty old location. I mean, a lot of it's restored. They've done a great job on the restoration, but some of these buildings have been here for quite some time. And you were saying you thought a lot of the hauntings might have been like residual energy, maybe or something. Yeah. Why don't you say a little bit about some of your theories here? Putting you on the spot.
Well, I think anything. I think any land or property has residual energy because we're all made out of energy. So that was just what I was talking about, though. I mean, what point are you talking about? Yeah,
just because you were saying, because I heard, because there was multiple conversations going on. Like there were two staff members I think I was talking to. I think you were talking to the owner, and there were these cross conversations. And I heard you saying, "Oh, that's probably residual energy."
Yeah, I mean, any place has got residual energy.
Yeah, which is.
I mean, anything can be haunted. So, from energy, not necessarily
do you think
ghost.
So what do you think the energy comes from then?
What it comes from?
Yeah, like what's the cause of this energy which acts like a spirit, or acts like gives a location the haunting kind of feeling or the haunting experiences? What do you think? Where does it come from? I don't know. That's why I'm asking you.
I think just the land, the property. No matter what you put on the property, you can get a haunting.
But is that because something bad happened there, the energy comes from, or?
It could be. It could be that, or
is it electromagnet? Like, is it the nature of, there's a lot of quartz in the earth or something, or there's something off with
There's a lot of factors with that. It just really depends where it's at.
Huh. And do you think that can manifest like something that looks like a person, or something that when it talks sounds like a person? I mean, that's the jump I guess I'm making.
Yeah.
I'm wondering.
Well, sometimes you can't automatically think that it's someone like a deceased loved one. Of course, that's a nice thought, but something else could read your thoughts, and
and so something else then is a
who
conscious.
knows?
But if it's reading your thoughts, it implies it might be conscious then.
Right? Yeah, it's intelligent haunt. if it does
Okay.
that.
Okay. And then there's unintelligent haunts. I'm giving you a really hard time because I know I am because I can give you a harder time than a guest with my skepticism. So that means if there's ones which are just energy, maybe from I don't know what we were saying, an electromagnetic disturbance or something, then that's not an intelligent haunting.
That's just energy.
Okay.
A memory imprint.
Okay. And then that's different to
Intelligent.
okay.
They're literally completely aware of what they're doing. Smart.
And how is you as a
Cunning.
and as a paranormal investigator, how do you tell, like, how do you differentiate what the experience?
Whether or not they're answering yes or no questions.
Okay.
Because if it's something that's constantly happening at a certain time of the day, and there's not any conversation or answering yes or no questions, then automatically that's a residual. That is an imprint. It's not a legit conscious entity.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then the only question becomes, what are the entities that are talking to you?
Nobody knows.
Because of course the big debate, I guess, is whether it's spirits of the dead or whether it's something demonic or something. Well, like the T-shirt I'm wearing. Let me see if I can pimp a T-shirt while I'm standing here. There we go.
You can see.
Demonic ultra-terrestrials from Magonia made me do it. Maybe leave a comment if you get the gag reference. But maybe they're demonic ultra-terrestrial creatures from Magonia.
Could be.
Could be some Keelian or Valayan or Patrick Harper type thing, perhaps. That's always what I think it is.
I know.
I never think it's old dearly departed grandma. But
that's a nice thought, though.
It is a nice thought. And you could listen, I could be wrong because nobody really knows. Nobody really knows. Oh, I have ice in my Coke. It's Jinky Jacqueline.
I'm sure mine did that too just a second ago.
And it's very weird technically because we're just here with a laptop at the bench in the kitchen in the hotel room, just firing off. If there's anybody there and you do want to, I'm not going to keep asking, but if somebody wants to ask us a question, we'd happily answer. And we never can normally because when you have a guest on, it's awkward to stop and say, oh, hi, Jim. Thank you for, or hi, Bob, or hi, Peter, hi, Lucy, hi, Sarah.
Yeah.
But tonight we actually have the ability to say hi back and answer any question that you might have. And the irony is, I bet you tonight we don't get any people.
I mean, I've already looked
questions
online. There's a lot of people that are live and doing investigations.
Sure, well, they're not as cool as us. So hopefully, we'll see. I guess the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the popularity of the pudding. Is there anything you want to ask me? This is your opportunity to grill me about something paranormal or weird or no.
Paranormal or I love this picture. Sorry, I just saw a picture of Greg Newkirk and I freaking love it.
Oh. Well, Greg Newkirk very kindly sponsored the festival.
Scroll through and he's flipping.
He's flipping somebody the bird. God bless Greg. It's one of the sponsors. He and Planet Weird are one of the sponsors of Midwest WeirdFest. Of course, we did Hellier last year. Hellier delves into a lot of those kind of things we were talking about what is the intelligence that you're in contact with, and what kind of methodology can you use to have a communication which is of any value with that intelligence. Of course, they go down the secret cipher of the UFO-nauts kind of direction. Who wrote the book again? I've read it. What's the author of Secret Cipher? Why is the name slipped my mind?
Is it really slipping your Greenfield?
Yeah. Oh, of course.
I'm like, what?
Alan Greenfield. Yeah, it had slipped my mind.
How did that slip your mind?
I don't know. It's been a busy weekend. My goodness. It's been hectic. Yeah, so they go down, are there communications with how do you engage yourself? I think the problem I think is that I think there's a lot of trickery with whatever people are communicating with, I think. And belief, as John Keel said, becomes the enemy. So if you think it's your great grandma, it's going to feed into that pattern of belief, I think, and it's going to represent itself, or you're going to, whether it represents itself or whether your psyche interprets the messages, it tends to become self-fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the big problems with all kinds of paranormal investigation, like people who are UFO abduction researchers, for example. Probably not quite as big a thing as it used to be, but certainly from the late 80s throughout the 90s, which is when I was doing most of my academic research, you could see when you were reading different UFO abduction books, whether by different experiences, but often by different researchers, it seemed to be what their take of the phenomenon was reflected in the encounters that they were either experiencing or that they were recording from witnesses that they did hypno-regression therapy on.
Yeah.
So it always seemed to be if it was somebody who thought it was positive, they would have positive experiences, or they'd be hypno-regressing people who had positive experiences with the extraterrestrials. But if they believed it was very negative experience, then they would have negative experiences, or the people if they weren't experiencers themselves, the people they were talking to would always seem to have very negative experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it goes not just for people who are specter hunters, but I think it goes into abduction research and the like as well. And it's a real problem which cuts across the paranormal. Now, of course, there were some. I mean, you and I are both kind of fans, the wrong words, but we would both respect Whitley Strieber and his work. And I think Strieber was one of those people who could take the experience as something that was a little more than a mundane extraterrestrial visitation. And even though he saw the spiritual angle, he was still happy to talk about some of the negative consequences or the negative physical aspects of his experience. So Strieber's interesting, amongst other reasons, but that's one of the reasons. But people tend to fall very much within one camp.
Mm-hmm.
And Bigfoot research is very similar. You get people who might want to say it's an undiscovered, North American ape, or you might get people who want to say it's somehow some prehistoric relic, which has continued through, or people who have a more spiritual interpretation, like, maybe it's an older, almost Native American tribe that somehow can segue into another reality or has a different relationship with reality. But everybody bites into the particular theory, and then that's what their experience with the phenomenon, in this, whether it's Bigfoot or whether it's ghosts or whether it's extraterrestrial, just seems to continuously support that hypothesis, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. She won't argue with me. She's so kind. She probably disagrees with everything I say.
Well, no, not everything. No,
not everything. Not everything. But what other things have we been discussing? Because we were always talking about the weird and the paranormal just in our general personal life. We're certainly excited about some of the guests we've come up. So we've got Steve Ward, who's fantastic. He's a Keelian. He kind of gets it, I think.
Yeah.
We've got Steve Ward next weekend. That'll just be a fantastic conversation next Saturday night. Then we have Kenny Irish, I think the following on the 20th. We've had Kenny on before with Folklore Frankenstein. He's got a new book called American Cryptids, which is, I think it's an expanded or renewed version of Folklore Frankenstein, where there's more American cryptids, more than just a focus on Bigfoot. Even though Folklore Frankenstein did look at some other cryptids, I think this one expands it more. Mm-hmm. Kenny's a great guy. Can't wait to have him back on the show. And we've got Ken Gerhard, who's also had him last on with the Essential Guide to Bigfoot. This time we've got him on with the Essential Guide to, is it the Loch Ness Monster and other Ness Monster and other lake creatures or something? I forget the title. Sorry, you're listening, Ken. And that'll be fantastic because he was an awesome guest. I just got Katie Elizabeth's book sent to me the other day. Her book on the monster of Lake Monster of Champlain, or Lake Champlain. So we'll be having her on soon. So we've got a bunch of great. That's like just off the top of our head. And I know we've got other people we're trying to fit in.
Yes.
I think we're going to have Mark Marcel, I think is how you pronounce his name, the guy who wrote Mountain Devil. He's probably the premier expert on the Ape Canyon story. The Ape Canyon story, probably most of you know, but for those of you who don't, is a story about some miners where are they in the Pacific North? It was in Oregon. It was in Washington State. It was somewhere out there in the 1930s. And they were miners. They had a claim, and they had a run-in with, I think, a Sasquatch or an ape man, and they shot it, and I think it fell down the canyon or something. Two of the miners, and that night a whole horde of the creatures came and attacked their cabin. And it used to always be recreated, or a number of times it was recreated in 1970s Bigfoot shows, like, In Search of, or various Bigfoot documentaries. So it was always one of those standout scary Bigfoot stories to me when I was a kid. So I can't wait to have Mark Marcel on to talk a little bit about Ape Canyon as well. So,
Totally agreeing with you.
right. Oh, you're not going to disagree about the value of our guests.
Yeah. Tell them about what you got today, the record.
Oh, I got a wonderful gift from Surumi Records, which is a record company based out of Seattle. We were doing a retrospective screening of The Revenant, which I've been programming and running film festivals for probably 15 years. And I first screened The Revenant when it was one of the hot films on the genre film circuit. It's not The Revenant we know of now, probably the more Hollywood recognized film with Leonardo DiCaprio about that trapper who gets ravaged by a bear. The Revenant I'm talking about is the 2010, 2011 it came out. We screened it at 2010, but it wouldn't have been commercially released for a year or two after that because we were at a festival. But it's like a buddy horror comedy by Kerry Pryor, who's here at the festival this year screening a couple of films. The Blair Rabbit Project, which we did the world premiere of, and The Revenant, which is playing now. Anyway, we were fortunate enough that the producers of the soundtrack of The Revenant reached out via Kerry, I think, and said, let's do a giveaway to the audience of the collectible Revenant LPs that we made on CD or vinyl. Everybody there got a vinyl and I think a CD tonight. I think there's a CD in the special collectible vinyl kit. And I was going to snag one. It's one of the few benefits of being a festival director other than hanging out with filmmakers and chatting about film is occasionally you get some cool swag, just like the audience do. Although the audience always get it first, but if there's something left, I'll go, yeah, I'll have one of those. But Kerry, the director, and Jeff Davis, the head of Surumi, took me aside at the beginning and they gave me this gorgeous box set, which was a limited 50 edition thing they did with Fangoria magazine for The Revenant. And it has, I think, albums inside, a signed original screenplay, The Revenant, various other notes and pictures, and it's just this gorgeous, gorgeous box set. So I was stoked, having been a fan of that movie for like 12 years or something now. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. What films have you seen? Have you seen any of the paranormal films? Well, of course, because we had Bianca Biassi on to talk about the space between. Yeah. And we had Alexander Brashear on to talk about the explorer, about him in the Congo Basin looking for the killing the baby. Of course, from Jason Hewlett, we've got the Barn episode. That screens tomorrow. Yeah. So, yeah, there's some really cool paranormal content, as there always is at the festival. What else? Oh, Hammerson Peters. We've got one of his wonderful documentaries. If nobody's ever seen any of Hammerson Peters' fantastic animated paranormal-related documentaries, they're great. He's also a published author with some awesome books, mainly focused on weird phenomena in Canada. And so when I was, the book that I'm writing at the moment with Zelia Edgar, when I was doing the Bigfoot chapter, which is the reason I reached out to Mark Marcel, who we were talking about having on to talk about Ape Canyon, because I wrote a little bit about Ape Canyon in that chapter. I knew Hammerson Peters had done a lot of stuff on the Bigfoot or Sasquatch, as it was and probably still is called there, phenomenon in Canada, particularly in the early days, in that kind of 1920s, 1930s period when the term Sasquatch was first popularized in the English language. And a lot of it reports about Sasquatches attacking people were coming out of Canada. So, yeah, I reached out to Hammerson then. He was very helpful. He also supported us through Indiegogo, made a donation to Midwest WeirdFest. After he was screened, I'd programmed his film, and then I saw he donated 2 months later or something, just out of the goodness of his heart. Nice guy. So, yeah, a lot of good people in the paranormal community. So what other stories do we have to tell? Nobody's jumped on to ask us a question. I can't believe it. The only time we've never had anybody jump on is the one time we actually will talk to somebody. Oh well, I'll just check.
Go ahead. I'll just flip this up. I just want to make sure our audio is working. Maybe that's an issue.
Well, it would be terrible if
that would
wasn't working.
Suck.
And I just ranted for half an hour about everything from ghosts to Bigfoots to all kinds of things. No, it looks like it might be soft. Maybe I should be projecting more over there. We've only got one microphone set up. We don't have our normal mic set up, so it's pretty
closer.
Maybe I should get a little bit closer. Although I speak much louder than you anyway.
Yes.
So we've got to come back to Eau Claire anyway at some time, and you have to do an actual investigation in the Micon.
Yes. Yeah, I would really like to do that. I was hoping we could do that this weekend, but that didn't work out.
No, when we had the kids, it kind of changed a lot of A lot of plans. So maybe talk about what. So now you've done a very little bit of research because you've chatted only a bit to the people who've had experiences there. What are you going to do? Talk as a paranormal investigator. What's your plan when you approach the investigation at the Micon? Like literally from the beginning to whatever you hope to find or do.
Well, I mean, I guess you would do like a paranormal sweep, I guess, to see whether or not you get any, EMF or. I don't have all the fancy equipment, so mine would just be an EMF.
You have some equipment.
Yeah.
What equipment do you need?
I would love to get like REM pods or something. So that way, if you're in another room, you can hear it going off, and then you know where to go. Because if there's nothing going on in the room that you're in, and then something's going on, it just kind of directs you back where you need to go, where the activity is. But
you're sensitive as well, so you also feel things, right? Mm-hmm. Like I could probably walk through there and feel nothing, but you'd.
Yeah.
You had an experience when we were last in this hotel a year ago. Tell that story. That's a great story.
What floor were we on? Do you remember?
Well, it wasn't the 8th. We're on the 8th this year, the Lismore in downtown Eau Claire. Maybe somewhere between, I don't know, the 3rd and the 6th. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I've stayed on so many floors. I've stayed at this place.
We had stayed up really late.
Yeah.
And it was 4:00 in the morning, maybe? Who knows?
Yeah.
And we had just gone to sleep, and I kept hearing a little girl or somebody in the hallway. And I got up to check, and there was nobody in the hallway. And then I kept hearing it. So it was really bothering me. And I kept waking up Dean. And I literally would scare him because you're like, oh, what?
You did scare me.
What? Like, no, can't you hear that? No.
Yeah,
there was nobody there. I was just hearing a disembodied voice of a child. But they were laughing, playing in the hallway. That's what I thought.
Well, I guess we are in that kind of liminal space that people talk about, like a place which is often between destinations for people or where people travel through. And so maybe that's an example of a leftover energy of some description, more perhaps than the trapped ghost of a young child. But you were saying something interesting yesterday too about this area of town, is that you said there's a mistaken idea that somebody has to have died in the building, but you can be in an area where there's a high concentration of hauntings, but it might be it happened next door or something. They don't have to
stay in a certain location. I mean, like if you tear down a house, people would think like the ghost goes away or something, and they don't. They just go somewhere else. They don't stay. I guess it depends on what type of entity it is, but.
So a spirit, say if it was the spirit of a deceased human, and if they were residing still in a specific premises, and that premises got torn down, would a human spirit
probably bother the neighbors? I don't know. I really don't know. I've heard of that, and sometimes if they're not stuck in the death state, then maybe they'll just go somewhere else that they had a good memory at and go hang out there.
Also, they will go somewhere perhaps that they already know.
Yeah.
Does that mean? Do you think then there's what level of consciousness is there? Because I've heard people say, well, the dead might know that they're dead, or they might be.
Some get stuck in the death state and they have no clue.
And some are conscious. Well, I'm dead, and I'm just. Going to keep doing my thing. And I mean, I think there's a heaven and a hell. Let's presume for a minute there's a heaven and a hell, and there's also I can hear a train.
Choo-choo.
Ghost train.
Hey, did you know that is like a phenomenon when you go ghost hunting? There's always a horn in the background.
Really?
Not always, but it happens quite often. A ghost train.
I did not know. I wonder if there is a train going past, or it's a ghost train of Eau Claire. I think there's a rail track here somewhere.
One.
Yeah, probably.
There's got to be.
Sounds more romantic if there isn't. It's a ghost train, or there was one that's been shut for 50 years. But what? But we would, so we were saying if there's a heaven and a hell, which I presume that there is, and we also presume for a moment that sometimes spirits of the dead, for some reason, don't pass over to the other side. Do they later pass over? Like, is there? I know they talk about trying to help spirits passing over, but I mean, how does that work? Is it just by letting them know that they're dead? But if they already do know they're dead, then what's stopping them from making that transition?
Unfinished business is one. sometimes if it was something like that they were known for, something horrible in their lives, and it just really bothered them, and if you somehow fix it, like make a monument of them, and it just depends on what what type of entity it is. It's I don't really know how to explain.
Yeah, but it's difficult to explain. But I can give you a little bit of a harder time than I could be if we had a guest on.
Oh, I know.
Because I love hearing different people's impressions and different people's research and different people's interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a result, I'm not often as aggressive with a guest as I can be with you, because you're not going to take offense.
No.
And I also don't want to invite somebody to the show. We're not that kind of show. We're not like a hard hitting, I'm going to grill the heck out of you kind of show. I just want to hear what people believe and what they think and hear a little bit about their research. But there are times, because I'm not skeptical of people experiencing things, but I'm certainly skeptical of a lot of the popular explanations, where I'd like to be able to grill them a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And I do a little bit, but not as much as I want to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I haven't had a lot of experience, like a lot of people that are in the field as investigating. I've just had my own experiences, and I've done some investigations, but I'm not one that goes to a haunted location every week or have a resident home. I get to hang out and talk to the spirits if I want to. I don't get to do that fun stuff.
Well, you might one day.
I want to buy my own whole old house.
You do.
I do.
You're slipping a little bit out of frame. I just noticed too. No, I know you want to buy. What state would you buy your own house in? Would it be in Missouri, or you don't care where it is? Or
well, I don't want to be around my family. Close somewhat.
So somewhere in Missouri.
Midwest.
Okay.
Close.
Yeah, I'm sure there's lots.
There's tons.
Where did I see for sale? Oh, was it where would I for sale? Well, there's always places you see for sale which are famous. But what did I see the other day? It wasn't even a real haunted location. It was the house in Silence of the Lambs, the Buffalo Bill house in Silence of the Lambs, the movie. Somebody turned into a bed and breakfast or something. You could go and stay at the Buffalo Bill house. I'm sure people
are interested in that.
Oh, I'm
now.
sure they're lining up to.
Back in the day, they shied away from it, but now it's
when Ed Gein's from around this kind of part of the world, and after Gein died, I think there was talk of turning his house into like a museum or a tourist trap or something, and the house mysteriously burnt to the ground. And my understanding is townsfolk were like, we're not going to turn this place into a shrine, and just took it upon them. Now that's hearsay. I don't have any proof that that's what happened, but supposedly somebody went and torched the Gein house so it wouldn't turn into like a place where everybody wanted to go and have their little poke around. We played this year. We played a film called Ed Gein Interview from Steve Chappell on Friday night, like a short film. We've had Steve Chappell. He's a Madison-based filmmaker. He has a genuine interest in Gein. He's made a number of films about Ed Gein. The first film we played was probably my favorite of his films. I don't think originally he shot it.
Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, I went. Go ahead.
Necessarily with the intention of. We can pull the comment up. Necessarily with the intention of making it into a film, but when he had because his kids are grown now. I think they're in their 20s, late teens in their 20s. But
Silly Goose Network. My readers, I can't see it. Getting old. It's so tiny.
Well, I don't know if you. They wanted to show it from Silly Goose Network. Hey guys, show me some love. I'm loving the show, and right now they're doing something in the toilet in their kitchen. Which mightn't be appropriate to read, but we did show you some love. Silly Goose Network. This is what happens when you show us comments without your glasses. But I was talking about the Ed Gein film. The first one we screened, it was fascinating. It was a little mini doco. I don't know if he meant it to be a documentary, but it was like a family movie he'd made when his kids were little. When he drove them to the graveyard where Ed Gein and some of his victims are actually buried. Out in Plainfield or wherever it is in Wisconsin. And it's like the film's called How to Talk to Your Kids About Ed Gein. And he's there with his little, like, I don't know, kids between 5 and 10 or something. I think there's 3 of them. And he goes to the Ed Gein graveyard and says, this is what Gein did, and this is where Gein is, and it's some of his victims. And I think somebody stole Gein's tombstone, right?
Well,
in fact,
stupid.
Maybe a couple times Gein's tombstone's been stolen.
Well,
so
what's the point of that? I don't get that.
Yeah. Well, because there's a weird cult of the serial killer sometimes, like the fascination that people have for Bundy or Dahmer or Gacy or Gein or any of these people.
I guess.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not. It's not a. It's, well, I mean, I run an underground and horror and
Yeah.
paranormal film festival, but I'm not necessarily. I'm not obsessed with serial killers. I think maybe the dark side is just fascinating to people.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a way to live vicariously, so they read this. Maybe it's the same thrill that somebody gets from watching a horror movie, but it's it's a real
Yeah,
life
that makes sense.
story
Yeah.
thrill. Who knows? Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll have to go. In fact, we were talking about going to the Gein graveyard to shoot a little something
Yeah.
sometime.
Yeah, sometimes.
Sometime, yeah. It's hard with sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
To be able to do these things. Parenting isn't always, yeah.
Don't have much help.
No, and you can't disappear into a graveyard well, you could if you were Steve Chappell and take your kids to. There's you go. You incorporate them into the tale.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely harder to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think we have to go for a full hour necessarily tonight. But was there anything else you wanted to touch on? I'm happy to keep chatting if there's something you wanted to hit.
I don't know, unless you want to talk more about Midwest WeirdFest. Anything that happened this weekend?
Well, it was fun. I mean, the guests were fantastic. I've had a great festival so far. We had Ryan Harrison come in for Ninja Badass. That was our opening night film. Ryan's an incredible talent. Check out Ninja Badass. I think it's on the fest circuit yet. It's not released. Obviously, Kerry's Blair Rabbit Project. We did the world premiere today of Zach Lohner's He Who Lives in Hidden Lakes, which is great. It's like an experimental underground cryptid themed film, which is spectacular.
Mm-hmm. Howdy, Dean.
Oh, howdy, Justice Mountain Climbing. Justice is actually, I don't know if he wants his real name still, but he's the brother of no, he's fine for that. I mean, he's the brother of a very talented filmmaker. I believe I've played in Sydney a number of times. So thanks for listening, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. If you've got any questions about the paranormal, hit us up with it. We probably won't do, like I said, too much longer. One of the reasons is I have to go and do a Q&A for the Revenant, because we thought we would have Kerry with it. We were going to cheat and we were going to record this show earlier. And because we ended up having kids here and everything, it became much harder to coordinate doing that. So we weren't able to do the cheat early record. So as a result, I should be in the cinema now, really.
Oh.
Well, not quite, but
What
I have
time
to
does
be.
it stop?
Well, midnight, I can be there 5 after midnight to do the Q&A. So, yeah, I've still got to run back to the Micon Cinema, which is only a block away. Mm-hmm. So that'll be the rest of my night, probably. Yeah. And it'd be great to Q&A our Revenant
screen. That would have been
nice
to do the Q&A.
Yeah. It's a shame you can't see it because you've got to watch some little ones here.
I know.
While I run to the cinema. I'll keep an ear out for any ghosts, though. Yeah. Maybe you should come downstairs when I've got to pack away the banner, like our step and repeat banner tomorrow night. Because have you been under there in the basement area at all, the Michael?
Yeah, I mean, since I've been there this weekend, but I know the first time that I was down here, I mean, I had no clue about it, but when I was downstairs, you could definitely feel something down there. But that was kind of neat when they said that there was something downstairs. So
you should go.
I always do like put a blind eye to it when I feel something, anyways. But so that was kind of neat.
Yeah, you should go down this weekend. Well, now that you know, and see if you know.
With what though? It's too loud. I can't do an investigation.
Oh, because there's
it's got to be quiet.
Yeah, that's probably a problem.
Yeah.
We'd have to tell you. Say you'd have to.
I mean, I could get like equipment or something like that. See if it goes off, but I don't know. Still not the same.
See, I don't know how this works because I've never done an investigation. So you'd have to go in after everything was closed.
You need to.
I might be too scared to do one.
Why?
Because Are you
afraid of the dark?
Well, I'm a theoretician, so I like to think about it. I like to hypothesize, but I'm not out there in the field digging up things.
Yeah.
So it's all here. So this is where all the work happens.
Yeah.
Which actually means it's probably in some ways worthless, but it's fun theoretically talking about these things. Yeah. That's why I'm always interested to talk to people like you've had genuine experiences.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think I've talked about, I'm not going to talk about it now because I've done it on the show before. I had what might have been experiences when I was little, but I think it's more the part of that imaginal world, which a lot of this interconnects with. And then it becomes how much is subjective and how much is something at an external level triggering what you believe. I know I heard a little pop over there as well.
That's probably the refrigerator.
We forgot to turn the refrigerator off as well. There's a big refrigerator in the room here. Yeah, so it was buzzing. but that's all right.
Great.
That's all right. Well, I think we can probably listen. It was nice chat to everybody this week. Was there anything else you wanted to chat about? I think the main thing was just to say hi to everybody because we promised them a show.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Really, and then we almost didn't give them a show.
I know it. Yeah. I'm just so tired. My brain's not working right now. So
yeah,
I'm not like the best
it's been a hectic weekend. But
chatter.
Well, you think more. I just talk. My mouth just runs. But we'll be back next week with Steve Ward, back to the more normal format. That's going to be a great, speaking of chats and conversations. Make sure you've had plenty of sleep before that because Steve's super switched on. And we can, the good thing for me is I just talk about the type of theories I'd like to talk about. Yeah, because exactly. I know Steve will talk to me about Kill for the whole episode, but we can talk about all kinds of different things, which should be fun. Okay, I guess then, if there was nothing else from you, I guess it's, it's. Oh, hang on. Here we have a little.
Take care, Dean. That's what he said.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much, Justice, for watching, and everybody have a great night or what's left of your night and your morning, and keep it weird.
Keep it weird. Thank you for joining us tonight. If you're interested in checking out more episodes, you can find us at talkingweird.com. If you haven't already, please like the show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Talking Weird Podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode by subscribing to Talking Weird. We're available on most podcast platforms and YouTube. And if you do enjoy the show, please leave us a review. Dean and I would really appreciate it. Until then, stay safe and keep it weird.